But later on, we realized that closed door forced us to see another open door, which ended up...
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rebbe Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Uvracha. As we are approaching to restart the new cycle of the Heilige Torah in Parashas Bereishis, I want to share with you a question that's been bothering me for years. But before we start with the question, I'll start off with a parable that my Rebbe told me that I mentioned several times in the past. The once upon a time was a king. The king left a huge treasure, and he brought his two kids and he told them, listen, I feel like I'm passing away soon, and I want to tell you something. I hid the treasure, and whoever finds the treasure gets to keep it. So they're both starting to look for the treasure after their father, the king, passes away. One son looks at all the walls of the palace and he sees something a bit odd in one of the walls. There's a bit of a bump. And he's like, wait a second. Well, it was probably a mistake in the building, a small mistake. The other son gets to the same point in the wall and he says, my father, the king? There is no way he would let such a mistake happen. There's no such mistakes. There must be something behind this. He breaks the wall, and indeed, he finds a treasure. Of course, the nimshal is, the Heilige Torah is perfect. There isn't even one extra letter that isn't there for a reason. And hence, now we are ready to share with you my question. A question that's been bothering me for years. We all know that it says, Pa'amayim ki tov on Yom Shlishi, on the day of creation, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the sprouting of the vegetation and the plants, etc. On that day, it says Pa'amayim ki tov, as opposed to Monday, that it doesn't even say once ki tov, that Hashem created and He saw it was good. Good is only mentioned on Tuesday twice, every other day once, and on Monday 0 times. Rashi explains to us why, based on the Midrash Rabbah, and the reason is because the creation of the water, or assigning it to be the sea, was not completed until Tuesday. And hence, there are 2 things completed on Tuesday: the water, or the separation of the water properly and from the land, and all the vegetation. And hence, it deserved Pa'amayim ki tov. We know Chazal tell us that tov means when something reaches its potential. That's tov. And that's what Rashi tells us. However, based on the mashal we said before, the parable, I still think there's room to ask, why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu do such a thing? Couldn't Hashem, obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have completed everything that needed to be completed for the water already on Monday, and hence every day would be symmetrical and fair. Every day would get ki tov, also Monday, and there wouldn't be double ki tov on Tuesday. We know that this ki tov has a major effect. People know that Tuesday is a special day. They want to get married on Tuesday because of that, start a new job, move into a house, etc. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrate such a thing? So at first, I started to think, and I thought, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us the following lesson. And that is that, of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can create something and it's perfect. But Hashem is teaching us the lesson that anything we do in this world, it needs to be maintained. It needs to be strengthened. And that is the lesson that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us. Whether it's in the physical world, whenever you build something, you still need to maintain it. But more importantly, which is why we were put on this in this place, also spiritually, you learn Torah, you need to do chazara and every time you learn, it's like an onion, you can deepen your understanding. Tshuva needs ongoing work and renewal. Mitzvahs, you need continued commitment and to continue to work on your spiritual growth, etc. But then I started searching and I found the Shemen HaTov says an unbelievable mahalach. And that is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us that sometimes when events happen around you, you do something or someone does something to you or something is orchestrated around you, you might not see the tov in it. We know HaKadosh Baruch Hu kulo tov, He's meitiv, and He only does good. But sometimes we do not see the good straight away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us, yes, but you will see it later on. It might be in a week's time, 2 weeks, a month, a couple of years, or it might be in the world to come. But there will be good. And that is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated the world. So hang on in there and you will see the Tov. This reminds me of a famous Chasam Sofer, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asks him, please, I really want to see you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you cannot see my face, but you'll be able to see my back. As the Gemara in Brachos explains to us, that is the Kesher Tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Chasam Sofer, you know what this really, in Bederech HaRemez, is hinting to us? It's hinting to us that looking forward, or even in the present, you might not always understand what's going on. But a lot of times when you look back at what happened, you realize, that was for the best for me. I would like to share with you a true story that one of my friends told me about his son that came to yeshiva. He really thought he was going to get into the perfect yeshiva that, so he believed, was for him. A big yeshiva, has a very good name. And for some reason, which wasn't so understandable, he did not get accepted. So now he had to go to a smaller yeshiva. His friends weren't going there. He wasn't so happy about it. He was very frustrated and very upset, very sad, going to his year in Israel from Canada to learn in this yeshiva. And indeed, the first 2 weeks he was very upset, even close to being depressed. But 2 months into yeshiva, he suddenly realized he was having such a good time. He had a good kesher with the Rebbe, with the Rosh Yeshiva. There were other Talmidim over there that became very close with him and then really gave him a lift in his life, both spiritually and in other ways. And when he compared to his friends, he saw they didn't have such a thing because they went to this perfect quote-unquote yeshiva that was so big and they got lost there. A lot of times, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's closing a certain door, and it might hurt at the time, and we might not understand why. But later on, we realize that closed door forced us to see another open door, which ended up giving us a lift and being toiv for us. And hence, that is the message the Shemen HaTov is telling us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, by in purpose not completing the task of the water and waiting for Tuesday from Yom Shlishi, which became Pamayim Ki Tov. Because through that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us a lesson in life, that a lot of times, the Tov, you have to wait for it and be patient. Yiratzon that will be zoichet to see the Tov in this world and the world to come, and start on the right foot for the new cycle of the Heilige Torah. Have a good Shabbos.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.